So today we talk about chapter 7 in the book Change Your World by John Maxwell and Rob Hoskins. And we're into the last few chapters now, which means we're leading up to the final episode of the series, which will be the 10th episode, in which I'll be talking about this project that's been on my mind for many months, and that this book kind of jump-started me to say, you got to do it. So I'm coming down to the wire. I'm scrambling to get some things set up to try and get it going. We'll see how that goes. We'll see where we are in a few weeks. But today we talk about a chapter called What Gets Done Gets Measured. And what's happened with that quote is Maxwell and Hoskins have turned around a fairly famous quote by Peter Drucker, the management guru, who says, what gets measured gets done. And you'll see why they decided to switch it for today's chapter. At the start of the chapter, they have a quote, or they show it like a quote. It says, measure what matters. Well, that's the title of a book by a guy named, and I don't want to butcher his name, but it's John Doerr, D-O-E-R-R. He was an investor, one of the originators of Google. He was in Intel, I believe, as well. And we'll come back to him in a minute, because then Maxwell tells us a quick story, fairly quick, about going bowling for the first time in like 40 years with his friends and just having a blast, having fun, him rolling ball in the gutter and all that, but eventually hitting pins and eventually getting a strike. And his point was that what made the whole thing worth it were the pins at the end of the lane. If there was no result that would have come of it, it wouldn't be the same. And he's so spot on with this. And I'll admit, I'm the coach, I'm the speaker, I'm the writer who talks a lot about let's focus on the process more than the results. And I still believe that we need to focus our attention on the process to achieve the results that we want to achieve, our goals. But you still have to have the goals, and you still are looking for results. And so for those of us in the athletic world, that scoreboard means something, absolutely. So I don't want to diminish the importance of the scoreboard, but I tell my players all the time, don't focus on that though. Let's focus on doing what we can do to make that go the way we want it to go. Let's focus on our process and what we do best, okay? And then try to limit our opponents in terms of them doing their best and see if we can't get the scoreboard to work out in our favor. That's what we need to focus on. But it doesn't mean we don't think about, consider, and have the goals out there for us and the results, that we need to actually, again, not focus in the moment on the results, but we still have to keep our focus on we're trying to win a game and we're trying to have results here. So I love that little story set. And then he mentions Martin Luther King Jr.'s, one of his famous quotes, life's most persistent and urgent question, what are you doing for others? And it came back to this John Doerr in a little bit, this concept as well. But then they quote Tom Rath in Life's Greatest Question. He's talking about that quote. He says, you can begin by connecting your daily efforts to the way they contribute to specific people's lives. Connecting what you do with who your work serves. Oh, that's really good. He then continued, people experience a far greater sense of belonging and more sustainable well-being when they connect their efforts in the moment with a larger influence on others. So let's make sure that we're focusing our attention on results, absolutely, but let's make sure some of the results are, how am I helping other people? Well, we as coaches, it's how am I helping our kids have the best experience possible? And how am I helping them to have success that gets manifested on that scoreboard? So then they come back to the concept of keeping score matters, okay? Keeping score matters as much in making a difference as it does in bowling. Keeping score brought energy and fulfillment to people's lives. Measurement matters. So we come back to this concept from Peter Drucker. They said, what gets measured gets managed. That was a Peter Drucker idea, which then led into what gets measured gets done. They turned the phrase around because at Rob Hoskins's organization, One Hope, everything they do, they measure it after they've done it. So here's what they say. One Hope, what gets done truly gets measured. They never actually assume the work they're doing actually works. No matter how good their intentions are or how noble their purpose is, they don't assume they're making a difference. They use data to verify what works and what doesn't, meaning they measure the things that they're doing to figure out, is this working or not? They then quote Larry Page, the Google co-founder, another guy with that John Doerr. As much as I hate process, good ideas with great execution are how you make magic. Now, I'm not sure where he's going with his hating of process. I love the process. Okay, so I don't know what, obviously in whatever book they took that from, he had been talking about not liking process. But he says, good ideas with great execution are how you make magic. Well, that's part of your process, right? And I like this quote, we measure what we treasure. That's cool. This Rob Hoskins says, I began a journey I'm still on today to do more than measure activity, but commit myself to measure what matters, to measure results. And so he has 5 Ds for doing this, okay? And I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to, in the podcast episode, I read them all and then went back. I'm going to do them one at a time for you for this. The first D is discover. Find out what's really going on and who's doing something about it. Research is key to transformational outcomes. During discovery, you're learning how to reach the goal you're trying to achieve. And so then they have this, a few things where they say research, and then they follow it. So the first one was research reveals what's going on. The second one, research helps you look at hard truths. When we argue with reality, we lose 100% of the time. I love that. You know, there's this thing called reality where it's there. Well, don't argue with it. Okay, I see the results, the data. Now I got to deal with it. Research is a mirror showing us the good, the bad, and the ugly. Rather than getting mad at the mirror, we need to use it as a chance to face the truth. Once we discover the truth, we can take steps to begin effecting change in ourselves, our families, our community, and our world. Research helps you to know who to work with. So as you go through this discovery process, pay attention to who already making a difference and in a cause that's calling you, and work with them if you can. The next D is design. Develop a strategy that begins with the end in mind and builds on your strengths, not your weaknesses. So the end in mind. Dr. Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's the first one, I believe. No matter how much we plan or how hard we work, we'll be truly effective only when we've envisioned what a win looks like in the end. You have to know what your target is, your destination, so then you start seeking it. This is that John Doerr again. Ideas are easy. Execution is everything. That's really good. We have to be intentional about it because success doesn't happen by accident. It's something we in proactive coaching, when we speak, say all the time. We talk about the difference between accident or design. Your success happens by design. The cycle that you start and constantly repeat to ensure your efforts are bringing about the change you hope for is this. 1, describe the reality of where you are based on the discovery process. 2, identify your target, where you want to be when you've completed your plan. 3, to the best of your ability, identify all the steps that will be needed to get from your current reality to get to your target. 4, identify the people, partners, and resources you need to accomplish these. And 5, give yourself an aggressive yet realistic timeline for the completion of your plan with checkpoints along the way. I like that. Aggressive, we're going to get after it, but we also have to be realistic. The next D, deploy. Implement your plan. Start small, fail soon, adjust often. I like that a lot too. Yeah, so this is where action actually happens. They go back to Peter Drucker in his book, The Effective Executive. He says, one either meets or one works. One cannot do both at the same time. So if you're always having meetings, you're not working. You got to make sure meetings are important, but you got to get to the work. Okay. I like Walt Disney's quote, the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. Yeah, so this is the action section, deploy. Next is document, measure to make sure that your intended outcomes are being accomplished. So this is what Rob Hoskins' company does really well. Without properly documenting and tracking your progress, it's impossible to answer these critical questions. How many people did our plan impact? How did these people change? What specific difference did the change make? And why did the change occur? Really good stuff. Yeah, philosopher John Dewey says, we do not learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on experience. And the final D, start the cycle over, expanding on what works and abandoning what doesn't. So you just keep building it and keep building it. They have these dream sessions where they kind of sit down and discuss, okay, what are we doing? What are we not doing? It's really good stuff. I like that a lot. And then we go to the final section in this called Transformation is a Process, Not a Destination. So it's interesting, the guy they quote earlier doesn't like process, but it truly is a process. It's something you're always working on. Anyone can discover, design, deploy, document, and dream. You don't have to be part of an organization or be a technical person or know statistics. If you can observe and ask questions, make a simple plan, follow through on it, check to see if your actions are accomplishing what you had hoped, and then adjust your plan to improve it and make it better, you can do this. If you don't measure what you're doing, you won't be able to get your great idea to give you the results you desire. Transformation is within reach of anyone who's willing to change themselves, live good values, value people, and collaborate with others to bring about lasting positive change. So good. It's a great chapter packed with a lot in a shorter chapter. At least this was shorter what I was dealing with it, but really good stuff. Next week we move to chapter 8. It's called Let's Keep Talking. Pretty good one. I like that idea. It's what I do a lot, right? Anyway, we'll come back to that next week. So make sure, if you haven't seen the earlier episodes from this series, go back and start watching them. Change Your World, John Maxwell, Rob Hoskins. I cannot stress enough to you, get this book. It will change your world. We'll talk to you again next time.